Now that our document is starting to come together, we want to create some graphic frames. There are actually 3 options for graphic frames. If you take a look over here, the rectangle with the X in it, and if I click and hold, you can see that I can create a rectangle frame, an ellipse, or a polygon frame. To create a graphic frame, all you need to do is click, drag, and drop a frame where you want it, and then you want to place the item in it. It works very much the same way as with the text tool and the text graphic frame, or the text frame. So I'm going to click on the rectangle frame tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click, drag, and drop up to the word other. Okay, somewhere around there, like that. And now what I want to do is I want to place the Sheridan logo. So I'm going to go File, Place, and in the folder that you downloaded for the Week 7 images, this is where you're going to find the Sheridan logo. It's actually an EPS file, so you want to click on that and open. Now you'll notice that the file itself is really quite big, so let's Control+ to get in a little bit closer. And I'm going to switch now to my selection tool. Anytime you have a graphic frame, you'll notice in the middle, mouse changes from a hand to a black triangle to a double-sided angle and then to the bendy. Now I need to move in a little bit more so that you can actually see the internal circle. If I click and hold while I'm in the middle, I should be able to see the entirety of the actual document. You can see it there. Now clearly the box that I've created is far too small. The first thing I want to do is I want to experiment a little bit with the fitting. So if you right click on this document and you go to fitting, there are actually a few options. The easiest one to work with is always fill frame proportionally, because what it's going to do is it's going to try to fill this frame based on the content that you have and the orientation of it. So it's going to take the width and fit as much as it can. I can still see it's still not quite working. Another one that you can do is to go fitting, fit content proportionally. What it's going to do is it's going to fill the box, but I have some empty space here and you can't really see it. This would work well for a logo. So I can just double click and it's going to change the size of the bounding box. I'm going to Control Z because there are some others here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back a couple of steps and I'm going to go back into fitting. And I want to show you a few other things. Here I could fit frame to content. That's going to create a bigger bounding box. And there's other options like fit content to frame. The problem with fit content to frame is it's actually stretching your image to make it fit. Never use fit content to frame when it comes to logos or people because you're going to end up with aspect ratio issues. So I'm just going to do a Control Z. So for this one, right click, fitting, and I think the best one is fit content proportionally. Double click the bottom of the bounding box and then place your item up against this guide right here. I'm now ready to move on to the next image. So I'm going to Control minus, and what I want to do is I want to create another frame, this time being mindful of that guide. I want it to go the full length on the right hand side, but only up to the guide on this side. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to select my first image. The first image is actually 3715, and there it is there, and I'm going to click Open. Now in this particular case, this is one of those good examples of a picture not quite fitting the box. And if I click and hold in the middle, you can see that the entire picture, well, it's because it's horizontal. In this case, I want to play around with the fitting so that I get it to fit from top to bottom. So I'm going to right click, fitting, and let's try fill frame proportionally. Now what it's doing is it's trying to reach the top and the bottom, and if I click in the middle and hold, you can see where the actual picture is. In this case, I want to drag and drop it so that it fills this particular area and it's right up against the edge. And so once again, I'm going to click and hold until I have that hand right in the center. On your screen, you'll probably have like a bullseye in the middle, and that's when you can do that. If you click and hold, you can then see what you're working with and then release. Now, sometimes with pictures, even though they're perfectly cropped, you've got things inside them that you don't want to show off too much. There's a really great tool called the Gradient Feather tool that you can apply to this picture. When I click on the Gradient Feather tool and I click and drag, just to do things a little bit more dramatically, I'm going to go from the left to the middle. You can see how this side is now all white. I'm just going to do Control Z. Now if I click from here to the middle, I have this side all white. What I want to do is I want to just exclude this building here. So I'm going to click right here, let go, and then what I'm getting is just a little bit of a smoky, lack of detail here. I can even push it a little bit further and kind of do that. That works for me. So this actually matches up quite nicely with the picture on the sample. All right, moving along. Now we want to include an image right smack in the middle of the spirit of collaboration. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle frame. I'm going to place it. I'm going to create a little bit of a cushion all the way around my content. I'm going to go File, Place, and here I'm going to select 3690, okay? And once again, I'm going to move to the selection tool and I'm going to play with the fitting. And this time I'm going to fill content proportionally. Now that's not bad, but I think I'd like to click and hold and see what else I've got here. In this case, I can see there's a lot more to this picture than I can see. In some instances, maybe you'd like to elongate your box a bit. I'm going to go into Fit Frame to Content and see what I've got. I kind of like that. It's the whole picture. I can move it around. Now you'll notice that my black triangle allows me to move the entire frame. The hand allows me just to move the picture within the frame. Okay, so let's place it back. I'm pretty happy, except when you take a look at the content, it's lorem ipsum, so we can't really understand it, but what's really happening is there's a whole bunch of text behind here. So I want, with this selected, I'm going to go back to the text wrap tool, and here what I want to do is I have a couple of options. We can wrap around the bounding box. Let's take a look what that looks like. And that's pretty much what I'm looking for here, actually. I want the text to wrap around, so if it kind of wraps around and then goes up this way. I also need to play around a bit with the padding because it's just so close to the edge and that makes it very unreadable. So let's go ahead and bump that up. I bumped it up 0.125 and that really cleans that up nicely. Now it did create some overset text errors and you can see here I have 2 errors. You need to clean this up. So I'm going to place my cursor on the text on this side. I'm going to select and delete until it's all fitting nicely. Okay, now I'm ready to work on my final image, and that one fits in here. Now this particular image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my rectangle, and it's going to start right about at the word you, just above the word you, and it's going to run all the way through to the top of that orange box and to the exterior of this particular item. So let's take a look. We're going to go File, Place, and we're going to use our last image. That would be this one here. Click Open. Once again, we need to play around a little bit with fitting. So I'm going to move my selection tool, right click, and now what I want to do is I want to go Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally, and experiment until I like what I'm looking at. Okay, and when it looks like that, release. And here I'm going to go in and I'm going to use the Gradient Feather tool and experiment until it looks a bit like that. Now, I still have text that's beneath it. Now that text needs to come forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the text box and everything else, and I can move that up, or I can click on the picture and arrange, send backwards. Send backwards. We want to make sure it's behind all of the text. And that's all there is to it with regards to fitting images.